Yeah, and it's one of those standoff positions where it's very hard to come up with a coherent plan for either side. It looks like White's got a very nice, beautiful pawn center here, but you can't really step either of them up. Just to mention one thing you don't want to do for Hans Niemann, for example, if Hikaru just waits, you never want to take a pawn in the center because you get left with an isolated pawn, a very ugly pawn in the middle. And likewise, Hikaru doesn't want to break the center. If he takes on Hans's terms, then White gets a uncontested pawn duo, and that's beautiful for White. So Hikaru, true to form, doesn't commit. And yeah, this standoff, it's just neither side wanting to pull the trigger.
This is always one of the toughest moments in a game, particularly for us lower or middle elo players, right? Where it just feels like, okay, I've done all the basics. I've done what everyone always tells me to do. You know, centralize my pieces, control the center, develop, get my king to safety. Now what? Now what? And then the impatience starts to creep in, and eventually you make a move that's too committal. Obviously, these players don't necessarily suffer from the same woes that us mere mortals do.
But they are human. Eventually, the pressure, the tension might build and become too much. Hans also 2 minutes up on the clock in this game. Not easy against Hikaru.
I was going to say, and against Hikaru of all people.
That's just been the most impressive part about his play, you know, maybe amongst other things like playing just absolutely gorgeous chess over the board, just his time management, even against someone like Hikaru. Hikaru now shuffling his rook, perhaps eyeing a break on the left side of the board, wanting to push that a-pawn 2 steps forward to open up some lines. Meanwhile, Hans, he just keeps the speed going, you know, he's got his plans, he's got his strategy, get the pieces to better square, activates his knight. But again, what's next right now? Who will strike first? Will it be Hans who moves the b-pawn 1 step forward, or will it be Hikaru who gets that a5 break in first?
Hikaru's literally done nothing in the last 5 moves. His position, all of his pieces and pawns are exactly where they were 5 moves ago. He moved his rook across 1 square, moved it back, and then moved it back where it came from. He moved his bishop forward, then back where it came from. He's just waiting and saying to Hans, you cannot improve anything. But Hans Niemann there, despite the question mark attached to that queen move, it does feel like he's going forward. The white knight's better placed than it was. The white pawn on this side gaining some space. Just interesting strategy. I think Hikaru's feeling the heat a bit, at least on the clock.
All right, I'm going to ask sort of a meta question. What are you looking for here in either position as a player that will finally give you that permission to look for the break? Like, what is that linchpin that you need to see on the board that goes, okay, now is the moment?
Yeah, normally it's when you feel your pieces are all perfectly placed and maybe the enemy pieces aren't quite ready, and then you'll go for a pawn break. It's going to be something to do with the pawns, whether it's Hans Niemann stepping forward on this side of the board, whether it is stepping forward in the center or trading or jumping forward with a knight. You just wait, you have a plan, and you just wait till it's perfect, or you try and force your opponent to kind of trade on your terms. But yeah, it's very difficult. It's always so concrete. It often relies on a 3-4 move variation that someone has missed further down the line.
I've got a fun variation for you guys. What if White was to slide the rook over? Now, one of the most natural moves in this position is to line up the rook against the black queen, also targeting the c6 weakness. And then Hikaru moves with his own bishop forward, hitting that white rook that has just moved ahead. And maybe we can show that line. Then we see a little back and forth between these two players, and a little repetition happen on the board, and it ends in a draw. What are the chances of that happening?
I'm not going to say nil, but I would be surprised. I think Hans Niemann just wants that.
I think he just wants to fight.
Wants more?
Yeah.
If it were any other player sitting in 4.5 to 4, we're in 1-2 positions, I think, yeah, then you're more likely to see that draw and say, let's just continue to extend our leads in the top 2 spots and move right along to the playoff picture. But there you have it. We kind of have our answer. Niemann sees his opportunity to strike. He's run through the calculations. He feels like at the end of whatever variation he just calculated, he does come out on top.
And I think that was the linchpin, the black queen stepping across 1 square. Now, Hikaru's about to make a move. He looks very interested here, but taking this pawn might be something he wants to do, but the white knight would have stepped forward and hit the black queen, hit the black bishop simultaneously. So I think that was the trigger for him, the signal that he should be going forward, and Hikaru tries to bypass that pawn. But now this is where the tactics, this is where it begins.
This is starting to get very, very fun in the center, right? Because white can take 1 pawn, black will take the other corresponding pawn on the D line, and things are about to blow up suddenly in a position that just looked like a waiting game right now. And I wonder how much of an advantage that 1.5 minute that Hans Niemann has. I think that's going to play out to quite a bit right now. He does slow down to calculate all the possible trades. The first one I'll be looking at will be taking that d5 pawn.
You go up a pawn, and if the opponent takes, the white rooks look perfectly poised. This one is not easy, but very professional from Hans. He's been racing through the last few moves, but as soon as there's something to calculate, that's when he pauses. And he doesn't play your move from now, Tanya, taking the pawn. He plays your move from earlier, lining up against the black queen. He loves tension, Hans Niemann.
It's a very tense position, and I wonder if Hikaru will continue with the plan of putting pressure on that rook that's just moved there, sliding up with his own bishop, asking some questions. Or is he going to try to block matters? Now, the thing is, if you push that pawn one step forward on the C line, you've sort of eased off the pressure, right? Which gives white a free hand on the right side of the board. So that's not Hikaru's style of play. It's not what he wants. Hikaru says, I'm game on. Let's keep the tension on the board.
Nobody wants to blink first here.
Party on the C-file.
Yeah, traffic jams. Black queen just wants
Do you think we'll ever get because we got the full file in Paris. We had 8 pieces on one file. I don't know if we're ever going to get that again.
block the whole C file?
Yeah.
You need a bit of help.
It would take some time.
All right, should we move out of this one and check in with Magnus, whose position in the top 4 is far from secure right now. He's got a big game ahead of him. Yes,
For Hans Niemann in this tournament up against Hikaru Nakamura. As we get here, you'll see well within the favor of Hikaru piloting black pieces. We're going to roll this one back because a moment ago, out the corner of my eye, this one looked dead even. So, David, help me understand. Where did it all go wrong for Hans Niemann?
Yeah, just a few moves ago, it looked like a very, very balanced position, but Hikaru suddenly turning things in his favor after Hans made a series of mistakes. He first took a pawn in the center, given a question mark. This isolates all of the white pawns, and f5, a beautiful move, preventing the white knights from stepping into the middle, and Hikaru switches focus here. He grabs a pawn on the edge of the board, and this is how we got here. A bunch of trades did indeed happen, but once the dust settled, it is this position we find ourselves in, and quick material count shows that black has an extra pawn and the white king not feeling comfortable at all.
Well, for both these players, you know, you've got Hans at 4.5, Hikaru at 4. At least there's no pressure of qualification as such, and it means a lot for pride, glory. Yes, both want to get a win in against each other in this one, but it looks like it's still a position where the fight is on. And I'm going to really say, let's go back to the Magnus board, because Magnus in danger territory is just one of it. Also, the position has completely blown up.
Plays out a thrilling conclusion to a battle for first place in this group. And right as we get there, it looks like the concession was made. Hikaru Nakamura snags first place for the first time out of the hands of Hans Niemann.
Yeah, in the end, from the position we saw, Hikaru just systematically traded pieces, traded queens, rooks, bishops, and was just a pawn up and about to win more in the final position. Hans Niemann resigning quite early, I'm going to say, but a mark of respect to his elder countrymen.
And what a moment to get that tournament lead.